What's up guys, it's your boy Light here, and today we're going to be doing a top 5 list of regional forms of Pokemon. So that'll include both Alolan and Galarian forms of Pokemon that have recently come out in Sword and Shield, and obviously Alolan forms came out in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. So without further ado, let's actually go ahead and kick off the list with number 5, and at the number 5 spot we have Galarian Darmanitan. So first of all, the first thing I want to say about Galarian Darmanitan is they did a really cool idea with its typing. You know, it's originally a fire type, and they said, no, we're going to completely flip that. We're going to make it the opposite. We're going to make this an ice type. But he still has, like, his original design, but now he's, like, white and blue. And then he has that, like, snowball on the top, like a crown. I think that was a really good design choice. And if you take a look at its stats, its attack in its base form is 140 with 95 speed, which is good in and of itself. But when it gets to Zen mode, first of all, its design gets even cooler because it becomes ice fire. Then you have the fire spewing out the top. You add the red and orange to his design. His attack goes up to 160 and his speed goes up to 135 for a base stat total of 540. So not only does this thing look cool, its stats are also amazing. And that's why I really think that Galarian Darmanitan deserves that number 5 spot, because it has a super good design, really unique typing. There's not really any other ice fire types, and that combined with its amazing attack means it's good for competitive, and even if you just want to use something that looks cool. So yeah, that's our number 5 spot. Moving on, let's go ahead and head over to number 4, and at number 4 we have a Lowland Marowak. Now, some of you might not be expecting this because you might be thinking, well, I mean, you know, a Lowland Marowak only has like a 425 base total, but if you really think about a Lowland Marowak, there's a lot of strategies you can use to obviously up its low speed of 45, but the fact that it's a fire ghost type with those like turquoise flames on its like the end of its bone, then it becomes a fire ghost type, and it really plays into the lore of how, you know, back in Gen 1 Marowak was like the ghost Pokemon up in Lavender Tower. It really plays into that element, making this thing a fire ghost type. So I really love that design choice. Plus it has pretty good defense, 110 defense, and yeah, it's not bad for a Marowak. You know, just remember, this is a Marowak and they've gone and done something cool with it. So although maybe stat wise, competitive wise, it's not as good as something like we just talked about Galarian or Darmanitan, it still gets a little bit higher on the list because I really like how they played into the lore and kind of worked that into it even so many generations later in Generation 7. So that's why we have a Lowland Marowak at our number 4 spot. Now moving on to number 3, we have another Alolan Pokemon, and that is Lowland Ninetails. So Lowland Ninetails is another one of those fire types, which actually was the first one. They made it an ice type, but they didn't stop there. They went ahead and gave it a fairy typing as well, and its base stat total is 505. So a very good base stat total for a Ninetails, if I do say so myself. It has very good speed, 109 base speed, and special attack not too bad either. It has pretty good special defense, so you can eat some hits with it, and Ice Fairy is a pretty unique typing. You know, this is going to wall any dragon type that people try to bring out on you. And yeah, I really like it. You know, it has good stat moves, Moonblast, Ice Beam. You can use this thing for screens, you can use it for, what's it called? It has snow warnings, so you can use, I think it's called Snowveil, I think. I forgot what the move is, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of strategies that you can work with this, and also we haven't even talked about the design yet. The design choice is super cool, whereas the earlier Ninetales, like the first Ninetales fire type regular, that's just 10, right? But this thing, they gave it this sort of like white with like a twinge of like mystical blue on it, and then they have like the ends all like whirly and stuff. So I really love the design choice and the way that the direction that they went with Alolan Ninetales, and that's why it deserves that number 3 spot. Now, moving on to number 2, we have Galarian Rapidash. Now, a lot of you guys might have seen this one coming because, you know, this is something that just came out of left field. Obviously, they teased like really soon, like right before Sword and Shield came out, they teased Galarian Ponyta, but we hadn't seen anything about Galarian Rapidash. And honestly, its design is really, really cool, and it has that nice typing of Psychic and Fairy, which work really well together. We've seen in earlier Pokemon like Gardevoir, Psychic and Fairy is a really good type pairing. It also has base 500 stat total with 100 attack and 105 speed, so other than looks, you can still get pretty far with this Pokemon as well, competitively. And yeah, it's designed super unique, and it's very nice to see how like the original Rapidash is just like a horse, and it's a fire type, but then this becomes Psychic Fairy, so it's more mystical, and then it becomes like more of that sort of like, now it really looks like a unicorn and like a pony type thing. So like a lot of people, maybe some people might be deferred by that, but I think it's a pretty unique choice for it. So that's why we get Galarian Rapidash at that number 2 spot. Now, moving on to number 1, we have Sirfetch'd. Now you might be thinking, well, Sirfetch'd isn't really a Galarian form, it's kind of an evolution, but it's an evolution of Farfetch'd Galarian form. So just think of it as like, it is technically a Galarian form because you can't just call this a Pokemon from Galar because it evolves from a Galarian Farfetch'd. So you know what, that's all technicalities, but Sirfetch'd is my number 1 spot for any regional Pokemon, and there's a lot of reasons to that. Number 1, let's start off with its design. The design is super cool because the leek, I think it's called, turns into like this giant staff and it looks almost like a sword, and then he has like the leaf on his left arm that looks like a shield, so he has like the sword and shield, which really matches with obviously the game titles. I kind of just realized that right now. But moving on to its stats, bro, this thing has a 507 base stat total and its attack is 135. Like, that's crazy. This thing, like, you can get this thing pretty early game if you land 3 critical hits in a battle, which honestly, if you give this thing the leak to hold, you will get that pretty quickly. When I played Sword, it was pretty early on in the game that I was able to get my hands on a Galarian Farfetch'd and evolve it to Sirfetch'd in like 1 battle, because if you give it the leak and then use like a move with the high critical hit ratio, which it comes with, I think might have been Fury Cutter, I'm not sure, but you can get this thing pretty early on and it's really fun to use. Also, I like how they made it white and then you have like the green accents. It really works well for Sirfetch'd. And at first I was kind of sad they didn't make it fighting flying, but I think fighting, just pure fighting, works out well for it anyway, because it still gets high power flying type moves like Brave Bird, and then you don't have the weaknesses of like electric and ice. So that's why I really like Galarian, not Galarian, but Sirfetch'd itself. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to go ahead and slap a like. It'll mean a lot. And yeah, it's been your boy Zilai. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.